We are joined now by Coach Mike Etzelmiller, the head basketball coach at Millard North for the boys team as they start the state tournament tomorrow. Coach Etz, how are you this morning?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Good morning, Coach. How you feeling?
Feeling good.
Hey, you guys are playing well, so that helps, right?
Definitely, yeah. It sure does make our coaching staff look a lot better when they make some shots.
So, Coach, obviously Millard North has had a great run of success in the last few years. Great players. You had Coach Cannon, obviously. What's it like taking over not only for a coach like Coach Cannon coming off a couple state titles, but also taking over a program where you're trying to replace a ton of high-level guys that are playing at the next level now?
Yeah, it's really exciting. Like you said, we've got a lot of players in the past that have been very successful, and now to have a new group of guys that hopefully have learned a lot from those guys, and even myself learning a lot from what it takes to be a high-level basketball player. Very excited. Now it's our job as coaches here to continue the success. Coach Cannon has done a lot. It was a long journey when Coach Cannon started. I was here as an assistant, and we had some painful years at the beginning, and to see where the program's been, and now again trying to maintain that.
Coach, you haven't. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you haven't lost to a Metro team or a team in the state since December. That's a long time. Nice little streak to be on. How are you setting the standard of excellence? Like, what are you chasing to make sure that your guys stay sharp?
It's probably one of those coaching cliches is that just the process. Right? It's an important day, whether it's practice, whether it's a team that's very competitive or a team that that you're superior to, and you got to make sure that it's, yourself is just as much of a opponent as the other team. So our guys have been really focused. We've got a really great group of seniors, as do a lot of other teams in the state. But we feel really good about the guys that are on our team and how they've been competing in practice every day, and I feel like that's really helped us be successful so far.
You brought up something I think is really underappreciated, and I may be a little biased, but I doubt it because I don't really like my own kid. But this group of seniors in the state at multiple schools, I mean, there's just a lot of good kids, from the Pokorskis to the Wilcoxons to the Bennings or Rezaks or the Mossers or Eli. Like, there's just Jaden Jackson. There's just a lot of good kids that I'd call Eldon Turner if he'd answer my call. I'd say, "Hey, Eldon, you want to come watch you want to come watch babysit Zoe?" Like, there are just good kids across the state.
Yeah, there's a lot of coaches that'll be excited for graduation time. A lot of guys that have played probably 3-4 years of high school basketball.
Yeah,
so,
good point.
We're going to be sorry to see these guys leave, but at the same time, you see a lot of other guys, like you said, from other programs that have put a great mark on their high school. So,
Coach, you kick off your state tournament with Gretna tomorrow night. Tell me about how you feel about the way you match up with Gretna. I know you've played them earlier in the year. Have you seen them change at all since that matchup?
Not a ton. They're very skilled. When we played them at the beginning, in the middle of the year, it was coming right off of the passing of Coach Feakin, and so it was probably an emotion roller coaster. There was a lot of ups and downs. So now that they've maybe had a little more time to get some basketball underneath them, they're going to be ready. Anybody in the state tournament is going to be ready, though. All 8 teams are had a great year, very successful. So, taking one game at a time, and Gretna, the matchups guard-wise, look very even. They've got 2 really good guards, and I feel like we've got some good guards too. And then got Cook that has done a lot, that has really improved, had a really good game against Kearney, and so the matchup I think is a really good matchup, and it'll be a tough one.
Yeah, I actually think, and we'll talk to Coach Hurd about this. I actually think Cade could be kind of the X factor if Gretna wants to pull off the upset. But back to you guys, seems about, I mean, here and there, 7 is about the number consistently in the rotation. There are a couple of teams, Gretna, who you'll see, you guys, West Side. Depth isn't really a luxury, but you manage the minutes and sprinkle in time when you can with your bench. How important is managing who you've been all year versus knowing you could potentially play 3 games in 5 days?
Yeah, definitely digging into the bench early in the week. But, and I kind of heard Coach Hurd say it last night on the radio. You know, the way that the state tournament really doesn't happen in high school basketball throughout the year. So playing 3 games in 4 days is different, but it's, you know, part of that's got to be how you practice and making sure that you practice hard every day so that you're prepared for this. But you know, yeah, minute wise, I can also see every one of those guys that play for us would love to play all.
Yeah,
they would rather not come off the floor, but we'll try to be smart with it and try to get them some breaks when they need them. But you got to do what you got to do to win the first one.
Coach, you guys haven't played a ton of close games this year. You were sort of waxing a lot of people there a little bit. One of the only close games that you did play was against this Gretna team earlier in the year, as we mentioned. Do you feel like you saw your guys in enough tight, late situations to feel good if that comes up in the state tournament?
Yeah, it was a very close game, and they had some guys that made some big plays. A lot of times in close games like that, you really look towards your guards, right? Just, you know, how they handle pressure, how they get us into certain situations. So, yeah, we might not have tested as much in the season, but we're trying to do as much as we can in practice so that we're ready for those moments.
Coach, you got multiple ways to skin the cat, and I'll get you out of here on this. I saw one of the best offensive quarters maybe in the last 4 years that happened in our building. You guys almost touched 30 points in the fourth quarter. And for those at home doing math, that would have put them on, I think it was 27 points. It would put you on pace for over 100 points in the game. It was a thing of beauty as you ended up blowing Westside out on their own home floor. How do you stress to your guys the movement, right? You got a lot of guys that can go get buckets, but you're really, really good when you're sharing the ball and a good shot turns into a great shot.
Yeah, that's exactly right there. As we talked about it yesterday, just making sure that we get the great shot, not just a good shot, because we could come down the floor and, you know, anybody that has the ball in their hands, they could probably shoot it and it would be a good shot. But, you know, making sure that we get the best shot for our team, whether that's 5 passes or 2 passes. You know, our guys have been really unselfish. You know, we got a lot of guys that have scored the basketball, but I think if they walk out with a win and they score 0 points, they'll be just as happy. So it's been a very fun year with these seniors and you know, the underclassmen that we have playing. You know, so we can continue that you know, that unselfishness and then just be competitive on the defensive end. I think we'll like at least give ourselves an opportunity.
Coach, we appreciate your time. Good luck at the state tournament. And from a Millard North guy, go Stangs.
Yeah, right, Rolf. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Talking to our next guest, Thomas Leichti, the Omaha North boys basketball coach, as they prepare to kick off in the boys basketball tournament here. Coach, how are you this morning?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Coach, what's up, buddy? How we feeling?
Oh, not too bad. How about you?
Man, I'm another day, another dollar, man. Like I think, is this our first, after all these years, is this our first time?
I think it might be. I think so.
First time, long time, man. But you picked a good time, man. A state representative with a gaudy 21-3 record. I was messing with Sauter on Friday. When you look at the teams that have gotten to the 20 win mark, obviously Bell US with the 24, but you look and there's North right dab smack there at 21 wins. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, you know, we feel good about the season. We really had a really good off season. The kids have really done everything we've asked them to do. Obviously, you know, West Side, WS, and Millard North, the other teams with 20 plus wins. they obviously played a little bit tougher schedule than we did, but that was out of our control, and we just felt like we handled our business, day by day, one game at a time.
Yeah, Coach, I'm glad you brought the schedule up there because obviously that was the knock on your team through a lot of the year, but obviously outside of your control, how have you kind of kept the guys focused and just said, hey, we got to take care of the task at hand and in front of us rather than worry about things that we have no control over?
Well, we got a couple of wins early on against some good teams in December. Then we knew we had some tough games in December and some tough games at the very end there in February. And we just told the kids, from day one, if we could grab a couple of those games in December, then just keep stacking wins, take care of business, win the games that we were supposed to. We kind of stressed all year about hosting a district. It was kind of an emphasis the whole season. With us being fortunate enough to get out of the gate with some success early on, we really stressed, just winning, just continuing to win and one day at a time, because we really felt like we wanted to be playing at home. It's been a long time, and we're glad that we got the opportunity.
Coach, you got to walk me through. Obviously, we're trying to follow online, and everybody's trying to get the tail end of the broadcast against Papio South. You played them twice, 5 points total in the 2 wins, but down as many as 18 or 19 at one point. What's going on in the huddle, right? There are times you can be real excitable. There are these times I watch you just sit and teach. What was the method down 18?
We just kept telling them to stay in it. The other coaches weren't too pleased about this, but we were tracking the West Side game throughout, and Papio South just kind of started putting it on us. And they didn't like it, but I kept telling the team on the third and the fourth quarter in the huddles, I said, look, we're going no matter what. So we could sit here and watch this team smoke us, cut down our nets, and then we're not getting any better to go to state. We just kind of said we had a choice. We told them not going to make up 18 points in one possession.
Oh, that's gutsy.
Yeah.
So you talked about this real time?
Yeah, this is in the middle of the game.
Wow. Know the pulse of your team, don't you?
What's that?
I said, you know the pulse of your team, don't you?
Yeah, I just felt like they, honestly, yeah. I just thought it was the right thing to do. We told them, I think I probably told them at least 4 times in the second half of the game that we were going to go no matter what. But is this really how we wanted to do it?
So you did it without making a 3 in the second half. That's almost unheard of.
Yeah, actually, we didn't make a 3 outside of the first quarter. We just, we didn't shoot the ball that well throughout the year from 3. We shot the ball really well from the floor overall, but we just really thought, we just want to get layups. We always feel like we can get half-court stops, that we're going to get a chance to get out on the open floor and hopefully get to the rim.
Coach, you've got Central as your first game. Obviously, you split in the regular season with them, but how is it with some familiar faces on that side, trying to keep focused on the game itself and maybe not some of the personal relationships?
We just, Damon's got me off.
I'm as curious as anybody because it's tough. I mean, it's tough.
We just told the guys not to worry about where we're playing. It's about us. It's a big game. It's another game. It's obviously very ironic that this is who we're playing, but I wouldn't expect anything less.
So, for all the – because I think you got to give yourself a little more credit than that. I think for all the schedule talk to still come in as the 4, I mean, you took care of business, right? The A4 seed with those points that you stacked up, that's a lot of good basketball in there.
Yeah, we thought so too. Actually, if you go back and look at it, it was, like you said, we all know what the obvious talk was throughout the season about our schedule. But if you actually go back and look at it, there's a lot of teams above 500 on there, and some teams that we beat that were ranked in the top 5 at the time. We obviously lost to Westside, number 3 team in the state. But playing La Vista South, the first time we beat them, they were number 2 in power points at the time. Lincoln Southwest finished with 16 wins. So there were some good wins in there, and it helped that some of those teams just kept winning games down the stretch. Southwest won a bunch of games down the stretch. To play in La Vista, the Monarchs were kind of sneaky under the radar. I don't think a lot of people realize how many games they won. And we just kind of kept stacking wins and just telling the guys, we can't control the schedule, but, you're not going to give any wins back.
Let me ask you something, because I think we watched well, not we, the kids watched a lot of scout from Brian, and we watched Potts really get underneath Bynum and be physical, and we kind of tried to replicate that style. I watched the first quarter and a half, obviously at your place against Westside. When you guys are underneath guys and defending, it can be kind of hectic. How important is the way that you want to play versus how the game could be officiated on this big stage? Like, are you walking your guys through, hey, you may not always kind of get the calls you want, but there's a style that you want to play to be successful?
Yeah, and our style is just that. Like you said, we like to get up underneath people and sit down. We stress, sit in the chair, nose on the ball. We spend a lot of time on defensive slide, lateral movement, and things like that. We don't press a whole lot unless we absolutely need to. I kind of like the philosophy of, the floor is 94 feet. If we're strong athletically, I'd rather cut the floor in half and have 5 guys on top of 5 guys in the half court rather than put 10 guys out in the open floor.
Mm.
Coach, you mentioned some of your philosophy, obviously, there with your defensive strategy. You mentioned getting stops in the half court earlier. You mentioned you're not a great 3-point shooting team. What are some of the things you're going to be looking for in terms of strategically trying to accomplish against Central to make sure you are able to get those good looks in the half court offensively?
Well, the key with them is you got to rebound the basketball. They really pound the glass. They're probably one of the better, I'd say easily one of the better rebounding teams in the state.
Especially offensive glass.
Yeah, and they really bang the glass hard. They really do. And they're tough physical kids, and they've got good size. They're kind of like us. They're kind of defensive oriented. We like to play in the half court a little bit more than they do. They're more of a full court team than we are, and we're probably more of a half court team than they are. But the key is, we know we're going to get zoned. We zoned each other last time, actually. We don't really hardly ever zone anybody, but we zoned them last time, and they zoned us. I think you're looking at 2 teams that don't shoot the ball extremely well. You're going to go play in a big arena with a different backdrop. I expect a low-scoring game, but, you don't really know what to expect really when you get there.
Some of the better-kept secrets in the Metro and in the state will be showcased. Obviously, Minor Strong is one of them. When you look at his frame and kind of his build, how's he playing when you think he's on his game? He's got a lot of versatility. What do you want him to do? How does it look to you?
Well, we just want Minor to be Minor. I mean, I told him that a few different games at halftime. I was like, hey, look, man, I truly believe you're the best player here right now. Between the other, our opponent, we were playing a really talented team the other night out at Bryan, and the game was kind of close at halftime, and kind of told him, I said, hey, look, I think you're the best player out here, the most efficient player out here, and I need you to show it. He completely dominated the second half. The one thing that, everybody knows that he's a 3-level scorer. He's very efficient. He takes care of the ball. His assist-to-turnover ratio is phenomenal. Extremely efficient. He's really smart. He gets to his spots. If you pay attention, he shoots from the same spots on the floor at all times. He knows how to get there, whether it's in transition or in the half court. But the one thing that I don't think he gets enough credit for is his defense. His on-the-ball defense. His hands are so quick on the ball, and he's lanky, long. He's a great leader, man. One of the best leaders I've ever had the privilege of coaching. He just really stepped up between last season and this year, and I'm extremely proud of him.
That's Coach Leichti from Omaha North. Coach, we appreciate your time, and good luck this week.
3:15 tip, bud. See you soon. You got it.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
We are joined now by Bill Heard. He is the Gretna basketball coach as they get ready to start the state tournament. Coach, how are you this morning?
We're doing well. Thanks for having me.
Coach, how we doing, buddy? It's very good to hear your voice.
Good to hear from you too.
Coach, as we get before we get into the game itself and the state tournament, obviously this has been a really tough season with everything going on in not just with the Gretna basketball team, but in the Gretna community as well, with the passing of Coach Feakin. Just how have you been able to help guide this team and have them focus on games when I'm guessing sometimes it felt like the games maybe didn't matter that much in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, no, I think, truthfully, I'm not sure they matter that much now, being completely honest. I mean, they do. matter to our kids, and our kids are gonna be competitive, and our community is gonna show up, and all those good things. But if tomorrow doesn't go well, it ain't gonna be the end of the world for us. Our kids are gonna be just fine. So in a way, it's allowed us to maybe be a little freer than what I've ever probably had a group play like. Just because I think this year's maybe offered some perspective for our kids and certainly for myself that, there's a lot bigger things, and what our kids have done nothing to, they've just been unbelievable in this run, and it's just cemented the fact that, like, whatever happens at a ball game in the next couple of days, it's going to be all good.
I obviously following you for years, watching some of these young guys, knowing a lot of folks in the community. You guys just don't blink, right? You highly competitive. You typically don't flinch. How much is it that your team is so mature where you can live and exude the message of it's only a game, knowing full well they're going to maximize during that game because you've told them it's only a game. It has this weird effect of power when you explain it to your players.
Yeah, it's Damon, this definitely changed my perspective on coaching and kids and all of it, I think. To start with, this group's a veteran group, right?
Oh, yeah.
They've played since they were freshmen. They've been in wars. So I think there's part of that just comes with being seniors and your last go and having been through this. So I think that's probably where it starts. And then I think, when you go through this stuff, two of our seniors stood up and spoke at Coach's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
That's grown men stuff.
Yeah.
I struggle to do it. And when you go through some of those things, I just think, I think it truly does become just a game. I do. I think our kids are gonna. I know they're gonna line up and compete because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't have to be concerned about that. But situations, environments, all that kind of stuff. It's just not going to move our boys.
It's interesting. You guys, just the way you play, and they played so many big games and it's the senior class as a whole, right across the state. I was talking with Coach Etz about this, in the first hour. There's the depth of good players, maybe not as high on the high end, but the depth of quality basketball that's been played over this senior group's run across the state has been at an incredible level, not only locally, but on the national level too. Do you remember a group, and again, maybe not as high end, but there's a ton of players that have played high school basketball 3 and for some 4 years at the varsity level?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, to your point, we're sitting here as a 7 seed and Prep's sitting there as an 8 seed.
I know, right?
That's not a that's not a typical 7 and 8 seed. So I don't remember a group that's been around this long in terms of as a class. And I get that maybe there's not the high end piece, but man, they're high end competitors. I know that because we've seen them all. I mean, some of these games over the last 3 years, I mean, they're just wars. They're just kids going at it and about the right things. And I don't know. This is going to be really good basketball over the next few days, I think.
Let me because you can go global here. Like, how much of the fact that you think there's familiarity with all these kids playing against one another that actually factors into these games? I'm not necessarily saying familiarity breeds contempt, but we're going to see it with Lincoln Southeast, like Hilkeman and Taymor and these guys. Listen, they don't like Westside, and there's no secret about it. They play different against Westside, and I've seen it over the last handful of years. Like, there's no awe when Pekorski sees, Jaden Jackson or Dotzler from a year ago, just because they've seen them so much, and it is kind of personal. Like, do you think the summer and the high competitive level of basketball balance is out the high school year?
Yeah, I 100% think that's the case. You know, you always want to beat your buddies, right? And I 100% think there's a super high level that comes in when you're playing each other. You know, some of my coaches and I were just talking about this the other day. When Coach Feakin and I used to play each other.
Yeah.
So we played each other 8 or 9 times.
Yeah.
You know, we wanted to beat the heck out of each other. And then when it's over, you call each other and you talk about it.
Oh.
And I think that's the same thing here. I mean, these kids, they know each other. They're connected through summer ball. They're connected through pretty much everything that they do now. I 100% think there's an extra competitive element that comes into it, Coach.
As a defensive mind, there's lots of ways that Millard North can get you on any given night in terms of scoring. You guys aren't real deep. How are you kind of managing the scout and being ready to play at a high level with a opponent that you know has a ton of firepower?
Yeah, I think that's just where you start. They got a bunch of guys that can score the basketball. Well, I'm not sure we have the answer to that, Coach. We've not had a ton of success with Millard North over the last few years. So you're talking to a guy who's shooting in the dark, I think, right now. You know, you're going to have to score some. Like that's kind of where it's got to start. You got to put the ball in the basket a little bit against them. If you can't score, it ain't going to matter. You know, defensively, you kind of hope to slow them down. You're not going to stop them. They got too many weapons. So we just got to do our best to try to hang in there and take a shot at it at the end, I think.
Coach, you guys have played in a ton of close games this year, big games this year against marquee opponents. You've seen almost everybody that's in this tournament field at some point during the course of the season, and you've gone toe-to-toe with pretty much all of them. Millard North, on the other hand, we talked to Coach Etz earlier, not played a lot of close games this year. Do you think, you know, on the surface,
shoot, outside of Gretna?
I mean, yeah, outside of the game with you guys, do you think that might give you a little bit of advantage if things get tight late?
Yeah, I do. I actually think going out to Kearney last week in district gives us an advantage.
How about that environment?
Unbelievable.
It's
best high school environment I've ever played.
It's crazy. I said it when we played them early in the year, and that was just a regular season game. It's an incredible environment.
I am so glad that our kids got to go do that. You know, when we started looking at districts, and you know, at first you got a little bit of the woe is me thing. You know, we're sitting there with, I think we're 19-5 or something like that.
As the like, in A7, I was like, yeah. What is going on?
Yeah, with no shot of the wild card, like that was gone. We had to win. And looking back at it, I am so glad that we got to go do that. The environment, just everything, all of it was perfect for us. So yeah, I do. I think that helps us. I mean, our kids have been through the back to the wall piece a little bit, and I think there's a mindset when you know that you have to win to advance, and I think that impacts your practices. I think that impacts your preparation, and I just think our kids are maybe kind of comfortable being in that right now.
So I'm taking my dad hat off. This is like the analyst guy that's seen a ton of basketball. I always talk about an X factor for each team, in my opinion. No pressure here, but I think Cade Cook is a guy that, whether it's, you know, a little rim protection or whether Rollins gets a little streaky or what, like, we know about your backcourt, and he seems to be a guy that can be a little bit of a difference without putting pressure on one specific guy. Are there ways that you think that you can attack and defend Millard North that maybe don't just jump right off the page at you?
Well, yeah, you know, Damon, I think, you know, you mentioned Cade. You know, to start with, Cade and Kearney he was a dude. You know, he goes for
it's long, he can shoot it, he can handle it. Like, he's got a lot of versatility.
I think what you're seeing with him right now is this is the best basketball that he's ever played. I think he is just touching where he can get to.
I agree. I agree.
His best days are in front, but you know, we've got a couple other guys. Alec Wilkins is a kid that gets lost in the.
He plays so hard.
Yes, he does.
Oh,
Joey Beef is
another
Joey
one.
Beef needs to be in that conversation. I mean, those two kids, their motors, their intensity, their toughness. It's what seniors should do.
Coach, we appreciate it. Good luck starting off tomorrow in the state tournament. You're playing my Millard North Mustangs, but I do hope you play well tomorrow and let the best team win. I'm not going to say go Dragons.
It's a brutal half of the bracket, man. Gosh, I hate saying that.
I do wish you the best luck, Coach.
Coach, appreciate you.
Yeah. Appreciate everything you guys are doing. Thank you.
Joining us now on the phone is Joey Werning from Lincoln Southeast. He's the head basketball coach getting ready for state. Coach, how are you this morning?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Hey, Coach, congratulations, man. Good morning.
Thank you.
Coach, as you get ready for your first game tomorrow against Westside, I know we've got a Westside guy here, so we're trying not to tell too many secrets.
Hey, let's get that out of the way. As long as I've been doing this, I can be objective, and you guys have kicked their tail 3 out of the last 4, so I got no problems being objective.
I was going to say, Coach, you've had some success against Westside in your past few meetings. How do you not maybe take for granted the fact that you've had some success and prepare for them as if they're a totally new opponent?
Our message has been pretty black and white. I mean, we haven't had success with teams twice this year. It's hard to beat a good team twice. You know, we beat Pius in the HAC tournament. We lost them a couple weeks later. We beat Kearney in the HAC tournament. We ended up, losing a late lead to them later in the year. And even at the end of the season, we beat North Star in the HAC tournament. We end up losing a big lead late, that kind of was some late adversity that we ended up rallying around. But, I think we're battle tested at this point. We understand, or I hope we understand that, playing a team a second time is not going to be the same, especially when the first time you met was early December. We're a lot different team. They're a lot different team as well.
Coach, it's interesting. I just following this a long time, even watching the kids when they were young. I'm talking 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and this whole Lincoln Omaha thing. I was talking to it was actually the Applegates a couple years ago, leaving Westside after you guys won. I said, the one thing that I like about Southeast, it was kind of different, and the football team did it to us too. There's this toughness. There's this competitive grit that you guys bring to the table every time you touch the court. I got to believe that the outcomes are intentional, right? Like that has got to be something that you preach.
Yeah, I mean, definitely our program's based on how hard we play. It's something we talk about daily. Even our district championship, it was kind of an ugly game. It was a kind of a toughness game. It was a rock fight, if you will, and we ended up pulling it out 40-38. And I thought there was a lot of, 50-50 balls, plays we made, players going out, sticking their nose in there. We were a little outsized, just going out there and competing and taking pride in kind of our principles of our program and taking pride in representing Southeast in general, like you said. There's a lot of rich tradition here and history here.
Coach, I want to take you back to the district game against Creighton Prep. That was obviously a super close game. You end up winning by just 2 points there. We were talking with Coach Heard earlier, and he thought that having a really close game in an away environment helped prepare his team for the state tournament. Are you glad that they were able to go through an experience like that against Prep to get you ready for state?
Definitely. I mean, again, we keep preaching to the guys, we're battle tested. We're going to draw on a lot of our wins and our close wins, as well as some of our devastating losses throughout the year. So we've seen a lot of what you can see. We've grown a lot. We're a completely different team than earlier on in the year. And dating back to our game before Westside, we lost in double overtime. Bynum hit a shot from like 35 feet out of bounds to send it to overtime or double overtime. I can't remember. You've been through it. So I think there's not going to be a whole lot you're going to throw at us that we haven't quite seen in terms of different situations.
The first time around was interesting. You jumped on them early. I think it was 25-12 out of the gates, and Mike and Dang got busy early. I think Dang hit a couple big threes if I remember. Kind of got it wasn't a huge crowd, but it got a little excitement in the gym. Westside could match the energy. I know they're different teams, but you should be well attended tomorrow night. It's the late tilt. Do you pay much attention to the starts you could potentially get off with a city in close proximity?
Yeah, I mean, we're excited to represent Lincoln. We're excited, to have a rematch versus Westside. Obviously, you want to get out to a good start, but like I said earlier, we've kind of been through it all. We got down early versus that Bryan game, to reference that again. We were down 20-6, and we ended up, up late in the game. There's been games we've been down, and we battled back. There's been games we have late leads and got a little complacent. We ended up losing. So just being able to reference those things leading up to this game, and continuing to reference them during the game, just trying to get our guys to focus on being in the moment.
Yeah, Tay and Jake seem to enjoy playing against Westside quite a bit. Do you kind of like the familiarity that the guys have across the state with how battle tested they are from summer basketball?
Yeah, I mean, the more basketball they can play, the better, the more familiar they can get with, even Tay played with, I believe, Ricky Lofton this summer.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys are familiar with one another. So it's a little added fun, a little added competition. But at the end of the day, it's Southeast versus Westside. It's not an individual battle. We're just trying to go out and compete as well as we can as a team.
How have you gotten ready for your practice protocol? You get a little break, but you could potentially play 3 games in 4 days. Whose brain did you pick? What style do you like? Like, how did you get your guys ready for a potential gauntlet?
Yeah, I mean, I apologize to repeat myself, but we've been through it with the hack tournament. We played, 3 games in 3 days. So that's another thing we're trying to reference. Obviously last year, having made it, maybe we were just happy to make it last year. And
yeah.
I thought we competed well last year. It was a really good basketball game versus Gretna, but I think now we're looking to take that next step.
Coach, with the state schedule, you guys are playing the last game of the day. You're kind of in the evening. Not a terribly unusual time for a high school game, but is there any part of you that is going to, I guess, how are you going to prepare when you're sitting around at state all day trying to get ready for that game? Because I've been in that situation before with teams, and sometimes things can get a little squirrely as you're waiting to play.
Yeah, we're just trying to make it as regular as possible. We got an itinerary we're going to follow that we followed last year. Just take it segment by segment, go through our normal walkthrough, get a team meal, go through our normal routine and treat it like any other game.
Yeah, it should be a heck of a game, Coach. I'm looking forward to it, man. Best wishes tomorrow night.
Thank you very much.